Hello, welcome to the next edition of Competitive Sweet Competitive List. Today I got 5 decks to talk about. We're going to discuss. We're going to get through probably the least sweet ones as we move along. Of course, like this deck is, these decks are pretty sweet, I think, overall, which is why they're on my list. They all feature brand new cards from the new set. I'm probably going to start trying to take some of these lists that I feature on this slot and start making some videos for them on my Patreon or locals. So if you're interested in checking out these decks, then probably will pop up over there. Just because I don't really, honestly, I haven't got inspired by much in this set. Like this set to me just feels like one of the worst sets I've seen in a while. I know I'm probably get some flock of that in the comment section, but the power level I don't think is really there. So it's one of those sets I think is fun for limited and draft, but for constructed competitiveness, I just don't see it. So I know I sound like a Debbie Downer, but hopefully Dustborn is where a lot of the spicy stuff on the locals in Patreon get fired off. But we got, like I said, I got 5 decks to talk about for you guys today. Let's get into it. So the first deck I have to talk with you guys about is Junn's Sacrifice. Now this variant is picking up a couple copies of Yikra. We have Scavenger's Talent to hopefully find our Cauldron's Familiar. It can close the game out by infinite familiar loops. We also, of course, have the best parts of Rakdos Sacrifice with the Devil, Harvester, Fable. We do cut back on the Epicures as another 1-draw potential for this talents and the claims. So keep that in mind. We have Deadly Disputes, Oven. We have pushes for a little bit of interaction and removal. Mana base, we don't have a lot of green mana. We have is that right? We just have 4 green sources? That can't be right. I guess so. I guess that's fine because we don't need green mana until turn 5. Even then, you still have Fable the Mirror Breaker attacking, so you make treasure tokens. Sideboard, we do have Pick Your Poisons. It's going to be very difficult to cast them early, but we're going to try anyways. We also have Deadly Dispute to make a treasure, so that's interesting as well. Rains for mid-range decks and fat green decks. We have Thoughtseize for combo and control. Hearse for graveyard hate, along with Ashiok against Phoenix. Ashiok also is pretty good against Incarnation, other stuff like that, where they search the library. Nixilus's pretty sweet for grinding matchups. And we have a Jags, just because we can. Keep in mind, if you bring in the Ashioks, you do lose that on Jags. But besides that, this deck is pretty sweet overall. I'm not necessarily going to feature this deck over on Patreon because I already featured a deck similar to this on the channel already. I don't need to play this multiple versions of the same deck. So let's get into the next. So next is Golgari Food. Again, this is another deck I'm not going to be featuring on my Patreon or my locals. Just because I already featured a deck with this with Food. It's going to be dropping in a couple weeks from now. Rakdos Sacrifice is dropping a week after that, so keep that in mind. We have a couple mentors from the new set. Kamalia. We have a Forager and Yigro. So this is kind of a heavy influence by the new set with Scavenger's Talent. Of course, we have our Cat and our Familiar Loop. With the Yigro is Infinite. We have a Trail Crumbs for grindiness. We have Bitter Triumph for a little bit of removal. That helps throw away a cat to start the loops earlier. We have Deadly Dispute, hopefully to sack a cat or something like that and draw a card. We do ramp, so we can get this Yigro down early, which is kind of important. So that way, if we get this down on turn 3, we can start the cat loop and kill on turn 3. So keep that in mind. Sideboard, we do have Pick Your Poison for the vampire matchup. Jags, because it's a free roll. Thoughtseize for control and combo. Damping Sphere for Lotus Field. We have Ashiok for graveyard heat. So it does hate on like a Phoenix. Then we have Knights of Death Shadow for the Amalia matchup. Hopefully by the time I start getting to these decks, like, card doesn't need to be in your sideboard anymore. If Amalia is banned, then you don't need this card. And you can finally play good cards in your sideboard. But let's get into the third deck on my list. Through PayPal, I'm offering for $20 play your deck through League. I also give you an article about how to improve the list, and as well as some sideboard guides in very particular matchups. If you want to check out the link, it's in the description. Now, let's get back into the video. Third on my list is Atarka Red. This is the old-fashioned Atarka Red, where it's more creature-oriented. We have the new hero. So we have the new hero. We have the new Innkeeper's Talent to put counters on the hero. And then we can Atarka's Command, grow the team, smash face. We have two of these guys, which can just deal a lot of damage if they die based on their power. So it makes blocking very difficult. We have this also to boost one of these two and smash face. We have Cunning Coyote as a decent way to grow our emissary. We have 3 Monstrous Rages. Kind of interesting to only see 3. We have 4 Play with Fires because it's just the best burn spell. 4 Kamanos as a way to grow our Scamp and our hero. And then we have Bushwhacker to also amp our team up and attack. Sideboard, we have Pick Your Poison for the Vampire matchup. Rending Volley for Phoenix, Malia, Lizard for Phoenix, Shot, pretty good against Shieldred and other mid-range piles. Druid is for our grinding matchups or our control. We could bring it in, get a little bit of card advantage, get a 1/1 that grows. Clothis, Graveyard Heat, plus pretty good against control. We have a Bone Crusher Giant. In case we face another low to the ground deck, we could just stomp it, get a 4/3, which is still really good on the curve. So that is our Atarka Red for Pioneer. This is one of those decks I probably will want to try. It might be one of those decks I try on Arena, though. So kind of interested to see how it actually performs. Let's get into the next list. So next on my list is a deck that I specialize in. And I did not get a chance to test out Crumble and get it. I didn't test that many copies of the new mouse. But this deck did get a 5-0. So I am curious to see if I want to come back and try this again. Just because I do need to prep for RC on DC, and this is the deck I'm going to be bringing. So I'm not sure if I want the mouse or this Crumble and get it. So I really need to test them thoroughly, see if they actually make the cuts long term. They did cut Legionnaire for the mouse, so I wonder how that's going to perform. A lot of people in the Heroic Discord are pretty favored into the Legionnaire. Actually, no, they cut Show Off for it. I wonder if that is a good move. They're not playing any Legionnaires, and like I said, they cut Show Offs, which I guess makes sense because Show Off isn't really that great with something like Reckless Rage. We have 2 and 2, just because it always has 2 toughness, which is a problem. But Virtuoso, Swift Spear, Hoplite, all great cards in the deck. 4 Courages, 4 Strikes. They did trim down on the protection spells for the Crumble and Get It with Lauren's Escape. So that's pretty sweet. Sideboard, we do have 2 more Lauren's Escape for heavy removal decks. 2 Light of Hope for enchantment removal. 3 Volleys for Phoenix, Malia, stuff like that. 1 Sakistan for an extra land when we go up our Showdown of the Skulls against grinding matchups. Reckless Rage for the aggro matchups. And we have a Jags because it's a free roll. That is Boros Heroic. Like I said, this is the deck I want to try and see how it performs on Arena as well. So I'm going to be testing that out. Let me know down below what one of these decks you think is most interesting. What decks would you want me to try out? Either through a league or on Arena. Let me know all that down in the comment section. Let's get into the last list. I am now offering Patreon and locals content exclusive. It includes sideboard guides, budget guides, exclusive videos, as well as other types of content. If you want to check out the link, it's in the description. Now, let's get back into the video. So next on my list is Enigmatic Incarnation. This is the Yorion version. They picked up the new Thunder Trap Trainer, so we could dig for the Incarnation or any of our enchantments. So it actually does do quite well in this deck. The other new stuff we have is Bez. They have Cavalier, some Reflection of Reflector Mage, just kind of sweet to see it return. We have the brand new Lookout to help ramp us into our 5-drops early. And then we have a Presence for a redraw, gives us Domain for the binding. We don't really have a lot of 7-drops other than Atraxa. I'm kind of excited to see Roxanne, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, there's no other 7-drops. Maybe that's a hindsight issue. I mean, I would probably run at least 2 7-drops. Sideboard, we have another Beza or aggro or our mid-range, whatever. We have a Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate. High Noon for Phoenix. Pick your poison for the High Noon is also pretty good against Damping Spheres, or Lotus Field too. Pick your poison for the Vampire matchup. Mystical Dispute for Control. Also combo. And Spirits. We have Archon of Emeria to help, also double duty on High Noon, and also punish opponent decks. They're very similar to ours, but they have a lot of non-basics. We have a Buzz Crusher for a Lotus Field, Quakebringer. We could sack, tutor it up against Amalia. And Elspeth Conquers Death. Interesting choice for a removal spell. I'm not really sure if that actually is even remotely competitive in today's Magic. I'm curious to see what matchup that's for. Because it doesn't necessarily get... Yeah, because it still targets. So it's not good against Ripper. So I'm not really sure what deck this is for. Is it just to exile a Phoenix? I think that would be a bad move. It's an interesting card, and we have a Yorion pile, so we do get to play Yorion as a companion. Me personally, I have been more on the quote-unquote Karuga fires, just because I like the 60 cards. I like to be able to see my sideboard cards more often. My only critique about this deck, I think, is for one, why only 1 7-drop? You kind of want to have 2 at least, so that way if your Troxic gets hit, you're not just stuck with the binding in an incarnation and not having an actual good 7-drop to find if you already used your Atraxa. Let me know down in the comment section, like I said, which one of these decks is your favorite. I'm probably going to be trying this deck out, sort of. But then it's also weird because I'm going to be playing Incarnation anyways, the Karuga version, on this channel pretty soon, because like I said, that's going to be a deck that I'm going to start rotating into my specialty list, because I actually like this deck. This deck is quite fun. It kind of has like the Timmy feel, but at the same time, it has multiple variants or play patterns of the deck, so I kind of like that. And it's pretty good. I think cross the board against most matchups. It can gain a lot of life against aggro, and it could just take over the top of mid-range decks. So I said I really like the deck. But until next time, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.